So we're going to start with, well, let's start with altitudes right here. So in order to do an altitude, can you roll, what were the letters here?
For the altitudes, A, C, B.
A up here, C up here and B here?
Yeah.
Okay, so in order to do that, what is the definition of altitude in a triangle? Yeah, Robbie. So just, well, I don't have it for you right now, but you can follow along. Look at it, it says attitudes, but it's really altitudes. Just watch. Is that okay? Does that just look weird to you?
Yeah, but it's correct.
Okay, altitude. So it goes, an altitude is a segment, you guys. And it goes from one vertex to the other side at a right angle. So it's a segment that connects a vertex to the side opposite at a right angle. Okay, so a segment that goes from one vertex to the opposite side at a right angle. So we can clean that up a little bit. This is just the definition, like just kind of the concept definition in a triangle, right? Because it would be different in different shapes, but it's basically the height of a triangle. So in this triangle, we have to figure out where we're going to put D. Okay, so we have to figure out where we're going to put D, but it's going to be somewhere along this base. Does that make sense? Well, it's not necessarily in the middle because it has to hit at a right angle. So if I were going to just sketch it in, which I'm going to sketch in and then erase, if I just kind of imagined about where it would be, roughly, it would go from C, but it would have to go to this side at a right angle. So that, maybe it would be about like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to find that spot with the compass because you're doing a construction. So it's not necessarily in the middle, but it could be in the middle for certain types of triangles. When would it be in the middle? Yeah, let's go one. Equilateral, what's another one? How about Brandon? Isosceles. Okay. So you're going to take your compass, and if you think back to some of the constructions we did, one of the constructions we did was making a perpendicular from a point to a line. And that's all we're doing is making a perpendicular from C to the segment AB. So we're going to just open the compass. Is it going to be big enough? Okay, barely. Okay, I'm going to open my compass, and then I'm going to swing an arc so it hits twice on the base. Hits twice on the base. Okay? Far enough to go below the base. So it hits twice. Then every time I do a construction, every time I use my compass, I'm then going to need to use my intersection points. I could change the setting. I'm going to change my setting a little. I'm going to move it in just because it's hard to see. But now I'm going to use these two intersection points, this one and this one, with the same compass setting to make a perpendicular that goes through. It would be a perpendicular that would that will cut this, I'm trying to figure out how to show you this. Can you see these intersection points? I'm going to find the perpendicular of those. Yeah, I was just trying to think of, I can't point to this and it won't show up on the video. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to make a perpendicular, so I just go more than halfway from the first intersection point.
Wait, and that's not just a random setting?
That's just a random setting, but it's going to be the same random setting. I have to use the same setting from both sides. And then I'm going to go more than halfway here. And if I've done this correctly, then I would take my straight edge, right? So I would just take a straight edge, and I would have to align it through these intersection points, which is a little hard up here, but so it should go through both intersection points. So if I could just slowly, carefully get that lined up, it's a little easier with a real ruler. Do you see that? It goes through C. Okay, let me finish it once. Just let me keep going and then we can talk about questions. Okay? So once I align it with these intersection points, I should be able to draw a nice straight line. And it should go through C and the intersection points. You can see I didn't have my ruler lined up quite perfectly, right? Because I sort of missed that one intersection point. With that smart ruler, it's really hard for me to get that exactly where I want. But you can put your ruler exactly where you want.
Right.
So let's talk about questions. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one. Let's do the next construction, which is medians. So medians are a different definition. So a median is also a segment. But it's a segment, and these are all in triangles. A segment that connects the vertex of a triangle to, does anybody know? Yeah, the midpoint of the opposite side. Good question.
It's just like,
If we look at altitude, okay, altitude, what happens is it doesn't necessarily hit the midpoint,
oh, okay.
and it has to hit at a right angle,
Unless it's equilateral.
unless it's equilateral or isosceles. But a median has to hit the midpoint. So if you just kind of imagine what the median would look like, it's always good to kind of imagine what it's going to look like before you do it. It would, like you would say, well, the midpoint's about here, right? And if that were the median, you could see this is this right here, that's not a right angle, right? So even though I haven't done the construction, I want to imagine what it's going to look like before I start it. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of those pieces there. So we don't really want those. Okay, and the other thing I should have done, I'm going to just lock this down so it doesn't move when I construct. Okay, so does that answer the question of what the difference is? Okay, so let's make this a little bigger again. So I'm going to use my compass. And the first thing I would, well, what do you think the first thing I would have to do is? Have to find the midpoint, right? So I need to open up my compass to more than halfway of the base. Remember with these triangles on the smartboard, the thickness of the lines is going to create a little error. So same with your papers, the thinner the lead, the more accurate you're going to be. So you open more than halfway, so that's bigger than half, and then you're going to swing an arc like that. Then you pick up your compass and you move it to the other vertex, and you repeat that same process. So you're going to open more than halfway, and then you're going to swing, oops, missed, swing another arc. Now I'm going to I'm going to use a straight line instead of a straight edge because that smart straight edge doesn't work so great. So I'm going to just take a line and figure out where the midpoint is. Ooh, it's not going to let me do that either. So let me get my ruler.
That is the midpoint there.
Yeah, so you have to locate the midpoint with your ruler. So you've got to line your ruler up, and it's just a little jumpy. Today, for some reason. It just might not be smart enough today. Okay, so one more try. Huh. I don't know why I'm going to pause it. Okay, imagine I did that with the ruler to find the midpoint there. Okay, and it's asking me to label a GH. So I'm guessing this was a G up here.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a G here? And so we would call that H. And I found this point H using the compass. And then I'm going to take a segment now with my straight edge, and I'm going to connect from H to G, and that's my median. What do you mean does it? Well, it gave it to you. In the problem, if you look at your paper, you already have a G there. Okay. So that's that one. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go to the next one. Midsegments. So midsegments just connect midpoints to midpoints. They're segments. So a midsegment in a triangle. So it just connects two midpoints. Okay, so again, that's not a very formal definition, but it gives you the idea. So you're going to take your compass. I'm going to pull mine from the other page. And you have to find the midpoint 3 times. So you just take your compass, open it more than halfway. What I would try to do is the biggest side. If my compass could stretch the biggest side, watch what the easiest way to do this is. Let's pretend this triangle is smaller. Okay. If I could take my compass to go more than halfway on the biggest side, then I could just make 3 big circles. And they would do the construction for every part of it. So you'd have 1 circle here. Do you see what I'm doing? And then I'm going to make a second circle here. Doesn't matter if it goes off the paper. Mine went off the paper, right? Yeah, if you make it just more than halfway of one,
Like the
longest side, right. And then if you step back and look, you can see the overlaps. Like,
Oh, I see.
Yes.
so if I take this one here, this is one. This is just to help me find the midpoints. So this gives me a midpoint right here. So I'll call that midpoint 1. Okay? So does that make sense? So I'm going to just kind of make that a little faded. So that's not the whole goal of the problem. That's the first midpoint. It's not a midsegment. All I did was find a midpoint.
Wait, you only have to find one?
No, I'm just not done yet.
Oh.
So now I'm going to find another midpoint, right? So I just step back and I look here. See, and I'm going to find the other midpoint. Can you see that? So this would give me the second midpoint right here. midpoint too. So I'm just gonna make that a little faded. So the midpoints are what I want to do the mid-segment. So far, does that make sense? Okay, so where am I losing you?
I just have to find the
So let's stop. That makes sense? So far, all I'm doing is finding the midpoints. I need to find the third midpoint before I can draw the mid-segments. So I take another straight line tool, and here's that same problem. When it's so close to vertical, the smartboard's just not smart, it's stupid. So I have to really use a real straight edge. So let me bring that in. So that third midpoint is gonna be right here. So I have to cheat with a real ruler. So that's the third midpoint. Okay, now I put the mid-segments in. So I'm gonna just make my mid-segments, what color?
purple.
Purple, okay. So, purple, so I'm gonna connect midpoint to midpoint. And, yeah, it's really not liking that. So here are the two of the mid-segments, right? And the third one, it's just bonking today. The third one's supposed to be here, but I'll let you guys imagine where that one is. Because it's not going to let me draw it in. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. It is. It should make a mini triangle, so if I freehand it in, you know, it would be like right there, right? Yeah, so that's the mid-segments. And then there's all kinds of properties from this construction that we'll look at. Like there's 4 triangles within this one triangle. And they're all what?
Are all the through the same?
Yeah, let's see.
That was literally my question.
Are they all the same? Well, if I trace this one, if I was really accurate, let's see if I could clone it. It should fit in here, right? So, what do you think? Are they all the same?
Yes.
And then let's change this color here. So that one could be like green, right?
Just so that.
Okay, and then we could clone this one, and it should fit here. We can make it purple, blue. Okay, and then the white one, right? So that construction takes this into 4 congruent triangles. So that's one property. Does anybody notice anything about the mid-segments?
It's a triangle.
How about slopes?
Yeah.
Same slope as what?
It's just a smaller version of the same triangle.
It is a smaller version, so what about the slopes? Maddie? They should be the same as what? As the opposite sides, right? So if you took a line, let's look at, say, that line here. If I look at the slope of this line, and I just pick it up and move it, it should match up pretty well with the mid-segment if my construction's done well. So later, we use mid-segments for a lot of other properties.